Imagine a warm summer night somewhere on the edge of a village. Thick grass, the smell of damp earth, the chirping of crickets. In this grass, a real duel to the death is taking place right now. On one side, a viper, half a meter of concentrated danger. Its venom can kill a medium-sized dog within an hour. On the other side, a creature the size of an adult man's fist. 500 grams of live weight, short legs, a funny wet nose. A hedgehog. And here's what is most surprising. After 40 minutes from this fight, only the hedgehog will remain. Satisfied, full, a bit scratched. It will eat the rest of the snake without haste. It will clean its spines and go look for the next one. You thought you knew hedgehogs, right? Such a sweet, spiny ball from children's books. It drinks milk from a saucer, snorts because it is afraid of everything in the world. A friend of childhood, a character from Norstein, wandering in the fog. Forget it. Everything you have been told about hedgehogs is packaging. Beautiful, cozy packaging, under which a completely different animal is hidden. A real hedgehog is one of the oldest, strangest, and frankly most underrated predators of Europe. It is older than mammoths. Its immune system works in such a way that scientists still cannot fully explain it. It kills snakes that people are afraid of and lives next to you. Perhaps right now, as you are listening to this, a hedgehog is crossing your yard, your garden, or a path in the park near your window. Today I will tell you everything I know about the hedgehog. And believe me, when I started delving into this topic, I had to check the sources several times because some facts sound almost unbelievable. Stay until the end. Closer to the middle, I will tell you about one experiment from 1966 that turned the entire idea of what a hedgehog's resistance is upside down. And for the finale, about how the hedgehog may disappear from the surface of Europe before our eyes, and almost no one will notice. Let us start with the basics, from the fact that the hedgehog is not a rodent. This is a mistake that almost everyone makes, including me at one time. The hedgehog is not a relative of mice, rats, or squirrels. It does not belong to the order of rodents at all. Hedgehogs belong to the insectivores, to the same order as shrews, moles, and desmans. The closest relative of the hedgehog is not a hamster, but a mole. And when you think about it, it explains a lot. The hedgehog digs. The hedgehog eats insects. The hedgehog hunts underground and in the grass. It has weak eyesight and a phenomenal sense of smell. Everything like a mole, only with spines and on the surface. The scientific name of the genus is Erinaceus, from the Latin word meaning spiny. There are 17 species of hedgehogs in the world. They live in Europe, Asia, and Africa. In the New World, that is, in both Americas, there are no hedgehogs and never have been. They were not introduced to Australia either. This is an animal of the Old World only. The most common in our regions is the European hedgehog Erinaceus europaeus. This is mainly what today's story will be about, although I will also mention others. Now about the spines themselves. An adult hedgehog has from 5,000 to 7,000 spines. The exact number depends on age, sex, and individual characteristics. A certain British zoologist in the middle of the last century, out of scientific curiosity, manually counted the spines on 3 dead hedgehogs. It came out to 5,100, 5,800, and 6,200. An occupation, frankly, not for the faint-hearted. In essence, spines are modified hairs. The same structure, the same keratin from which your nails and hair are built, only compacted into a hard tube with a sharp end. Each spine is a hollow capsule inside, about 2.5 centimeters long. To visualize the scale, it is as if steel pins half a meter long each protruded from a person's skin. Each spine lives for about 18 months, then falls out, and a new one grows in its place. The hedgehog is constantly renewing itself, slowly but relentlessly. Over its entire life, an average hedgehog will replace its spines entirely 3 or 4 times. The internal structure of the spine is ingenious. It is not solid but filled with microscopic chambers like a honeycomb. This provides it with both lightness and strength. 1 square centimeter of hedgehog skin can withstand pressure up to 2 kilograms on a prick. This means that a predator that tries to bite a curled-up hedgehog will receive an impact in the gums and palate comparable to being hit with nails. Most predators, after one such experience, do not touch hedgehogs for the rest of their lives. It is recorded in their behavioral memory forever. And this is what struck me personally the most. The hedgehog spines are not only a weapon, they are also a shock absorber. Scientists have long noticed a strange thing. Hedgehogs sometimes fall from great heights and survive. At first, I did not believe it, but in 1988, a British zoologist, Pat Morris, specifically studied this phenomenon. He collected data on hedgehogs that had fallen from roofs, balconies, and trees, and established that a hedgehog can survive a fall from a height of up to 10 meters. That is roughly the third floor. Rodents do not survive this. Cats rarely. But the hedgehog curls up into a ball, the spines cushion the impact, and it lands with minimal injuries. Nature has created a living anti-impact suit. The automotive industry, which today invests millions in research on energy-absorbing impact systems, could take a look at this design. Some engineers have already done so. Japanese motorcycle helmet designers in the 2000s published a study inspired by the structure of hedgehog spines. The European hedgehog is small, body length from 20 to 30 centimeters. That is roughly the size of your palm with fingers spread. Weight from 500 grams to 1.5 kilograms. For comparison, an ordinary liter of store-bought milk weighs 1 kilogram. Here is your hedgehog. A liter of milk with spines and teeth. The largest hedgehogs live on the Mediterranean islands. There the climate is milder, there is more food, and individuals reach 2 kilograms. The smallest live in northern populations where every gram of fat is obtained through hard work. Yes, with teeth. The hedgehog has 36 sharp, white teeth. This is the mouth of a real predator, not a herbivorous sweetie. I remember when I first saw an open hedgehog mouth in a macro photo, I thought it was Photoshop. Too armed, too serious for a creature that is usually drawn with an apple on its back. The apple, by the way, never actually lies on a hedgehog's back. That is a myth. An ancient Roman myth that reached us through Pliny the Elder, who in his Natural History, written in the 1st century of our era, described how hedgehogs supposedly impale fruits on their spines to carry them to the burrow. Pliny was wrong. In 2,000 years of observing hedgehogs, no one has ever seen them collect fruits in this way in nature. Hedgehogs basically hardly eat fruits at all. They are predators. But the myth turned out to be tenacious, and artists of all eras depicted the hedgehog with an apple. And now hold on, because if you thought that the hedgehog feeds on berries and mushrooms, I have news for you. The basic food of the hedgehog is meat. Insects, slugs, earthworms, beetles, caterpillars, frogs, mice, bird eggs, and chicks. Snakes. Yes, snakes. We will return to them. That is a separate, extensive story. But first about the scale of appetite. One adult hedgehog eats from 150 to 200 insects during the night. Over the season from April to October, that is about 30,000 beetles, slugs, and other garden pests. 30,000. One hedgehog without vacation, without weekends. If converted to weight, that is about 5 kilograms of live mass of invertebrates eaten during the season. 5 kilograms, roughly like half a bucket of potatoes. Only these are not potatoes, but tens of thousands of small beings that the hedgehog finished off with its teeth. If you have a plot of land and a hedgehog lives on it, I have good news for you. You do not need chemicals for slugs. You have premium-class biological weapons that work all night, and in return, asks only for a bowl of water and a bit of peace. And I have a question for you. Stop for a moment. Tell me honestly in the comments whether you have ever seen a hedgehog in the wild. Not in a zoo, not in captivity, but just like that. Accidentally in the grass or on the road. Right where it was and how it behaved. I really like reading such stories. Here's a fact that once gave me goosebumps. The hedgehog is a living fossil in the literal, strict sense. The oldest hedgehog fossils were found in deposits dating back 15 million years. 15 million. For comparison, the first bipedal humans appeared about 2 million years ago. The hedgehog in its current form, practically without changes, existed 13 million years before the first Homo began walking on the savanna. Mammoths went extinct about 4,000 years ago. The hedgehog saw them, survived, and lives on. The most ancient hedgehogs were, however, somewhat larger than modern ones. Paleontologists found in Germany a fossil of a species that received the name Dinogalarix. It was a gigantic ancestor of the hedgehog, the size of a small dog, body length about 60 centimeters. This creature lived 10 million years ago on the territory of present-day Italy, which was then an island in the middle of an ancient sea, and hunted, as can be judged, lizards, and small birds. That is what the ancestor of our modest, modern hedgehog was like. When the island connected with the continent, the gigantic hedgehog was eaten by more effective predators, and the small and spiny one that now wanders through your garden survived. Scientists from the London Natural History Museum conducted a comparative analysis of modern hedgehogs and their fossil ancestors. It turned out that over 15 million years, the hedgehog practically did not change. The same proportions, the same spines, the same teeth. It became somewhat smaller, but the design remained the same. This means that evolution long ago recognized the hedgehog as perfect for its niche. There is nothing left to improve. There is a term in biology, evolutionary conservatism. The hedgehog is its living symbol. Only sharks, crocodiles, and cockroaches keep it company. It sounds like the cast of a bad horror movie, but these are the most successfully surviving beings in the history of the planet. And among them, the hedgehog is the cutest. This raises an important question. If the hedgehog is so perfect, why are there so few of them? Why did it not take over Europe like rats? The answer lies in the fact that the hedgehog is a loner. It does not form colonies, does not build hierarchies, does not join herds. Each hedgehog lives alone and has its own territory. About 30 hectares for a male and 10 for a female. 30 hectares is, for comparison, the area of 30 football fields. One hedgehog, 30 fields. Can you imagine this loneliness? When two males meet at night on neutral territory, they do not fight. They simply go around each other in an arc, and each goes on its way. No aggression, no contact, each in its own world. During one night, a hedgehog covers from 3 to 5 kilometers. That is with its short legs. 5 kilometers per day is as if a person without stopping covered 40 kilometers every night, every summer, throughout life. These are tireless wanderers, these hedgehogs. Scientists who attached GPS trackers to hedgehogs as part of wild fauna observation programs were shocked. At first, they thought the device had broken or the data was distorted. Then they understood. The hedgehog really walks that much. In one German study from 2016, a record was noted. One hedgehog covered 11 kilometers in one night. 11 without breaks, without sleep, just constant hunting. They also run faster than you think. The maximum speed of a hedgehog is up to 9 kilometers per hour. That is the speed of a calm human jog. But on short legs, imagine a 50-kilogram person running at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. That is exactly what a hedgehog looks like in a sprint. And it can run like that not just for a moment. It has phenomenal endurance. A hedgehog's heart during activity beats up to 250 times per minute. For comparison, in a human, during intense running, it is about 160. The hedgehog constantly lives in a mode that, for us, would be considered peak physical load. And now about the main sense of the hedgehog. It lives by its nose. A hedgehog's sense of smell is many times sharper than that of a dog. For a long time, I could not believe it until I came across a study by the German ethologist Bernhard Rensch, who already in the 1930s studied the sensory abilities of hedgehogs. Rensch conducted experiments with bait buried at different depths and proved that a hedgehog can detect an earthworm through a layer of soil 10 centimeters thick, through 10 centimeters of ground. That is, as if you smelled from the street that your neighbor on the 3rd floor was frying potatoes. The hedgehog's hearing is also excellent. It hears in the range from 250 to 45,000 hertz. For comparison, the human ear receives from 20 to 20,000 hertz. The hedgehog therefore hears ultrasounds that we cannot even imagine. It hears the squeak of a mouse, the rustle of an earthworm underground, the rubbing of a beetle against a grass stem. A night forest is not silence for it, but a concert of thousands of small sounds, each of which means potential prey. The hedgehog's eyesight, on the other hand, is almost none. It is nearsighted, poorly distinguishes colors, and at a distance of more than a meter sees the world as a blurry gray spot. It does not need it. It is a creature of the night and smell. For it, the world is a map of aromas. Somewhere it smells of a slug, somewhere of damp earth with earthworms, somewhere of anxiety because a fox recently passed by, and somewhere of a snake. And here begins what is most interesting. Now about what many of you came here for, about the hedgehog and the snake. This is perhaps the most underrated story in European biology, because almost no one knows what is really happening. The common European adder is the only venomous snake in much of Europe, including Russia. Its venom contains hemotoxins that destroy blood, cause swelling, internal bleeding, and in severe cases, cardiac arrest. An adult human after an adder bite without medical help dies in 10% of cases. A 10-kilogram dog dies in half the cases. A cat almost always. And the hedgehog eats it for dinner. This was first noticed back in the 18th century. The Swedish naturalist Peter Artedi, a contemporary of Linnaeus, described how villagers in Scandinavia deliberately brought hedgehogs to their plots so that they would eat snakes. In the 19th century, this was already common knowledge. Peasants in Germany, Austria, and northern Russia kept hedgehogs roughly like cats, only instead of mice, they caught snakes. And here begins the story that I promised at the very beginning. The German toxicologist Wolfgang Bücher in 1966 conducted a series of experiments that today's bioethics commissions would look at with concern. But science was different then. Bücher administered to hedgehogs doses of viper venom 40 times exceeding the lethal dose for a guinea pig of the same weight. 40 times. The guinea pig died within 3 minutes. The hedgehog came out of it with slight swelling at the site of the bite, and after 2 days was healthy again. 40 lethal doses. The hedgehog survived. Bücher collected the results in numbers and published them in a German toxicological journal. The article caused a bomb effect. Previously, hedgehog resistance to venom was considered an exaggerated folktale. Bücher proved that it is a biochemical fact. It got even worse for the viper. Bücher established that a special protein circulates in the hedgehog's blood, which he called erinacin, from the Latin name of the hedgehog, Erinaceus. This protein binds to the venom toxins and neutralizes them before they can damage the tissues. This is not resistance in the usual sense. These are not antibodies produced by the body after the first contact. This is an innate biochemical protection built in from birth. A hedgehog can go its whole life without meeting any snake and still be protected from it. Moreover, in the 1990s, a group of American biochemists from the University of California, San Diego, conducted detailed studies and found that erinacin neutralizes not only viper venom, it works effectively against the venom of pit vipers, against some components of bee venom, against scorpion toxins. This is a universal antitoxic mechanism that the hedgehog carries in its blood from birth. Nature has created a living first aid kit on little legs. This is what struck me personally the most in the whole topic. We humans have been trying for several decades to create a universal antidote to snake venoms. We struggle with it. We spend millions of dollars on research, and the hedgehog has it built in for free. And one more fact that few know. Modern pharmaceutical companies are now studying erinacin as the basis for developing a new generation of anti-venom drugs. In 2020, an extensive article by Italian researchers appeared in the journal Toxicon, who are trying to synthesize an analog of erinacin in the laboratory. If successful, it will be a revolution in the treatment of snake bites. And the story looks as if nature solved this problem already 13 million years ago and calmly carries the solution on the back of a small, spiny animal. Now imagine the hunting scene itself. The hedgehog detects the snake from a distance. It approaches. The viper assumes a defensive posture, hisses, prepares to attack. The hedgehog pretends to charge and immediately curls into a ball. The snake attacks and hits the spines. A bite into a spine is useless. The venom does not enter the blood. The snake renews the attack, again spines, and the hedgehog gradually moves closer. And at a certain moment, when the snake gets tired and becomes less mobile, the hedgehog abruptly turns and grabs it by the head. The hedgehog's teeth are built in such a way that biting through the snake's spine right behind the skull is a matter of one movement. End. The fight is over. The whole tactic usually takes from 15 to 40 minutes. The hedgehog is not in a hurry. It knows that even if the snake bites it in an unprotected place, the venom will have almost no effect on it. It has time. The viper does not. Then the hedgehog eats it whole, together with the bones. After a 50-centimeter viper, only clean earth and a satisfied hedgehog remain. The whole eating process takes another 20 minutes or so. The hedgehog starts from the head and gradually moves toward the tail, grinding the prey with its 36 teeth. Interestingly, other animals also hunt vipers, but no one succeeds as effectively. A fox can kill a viper, but often dies from the bite itself. This problem does not concern the hedgehog. The hedgehog can be called a snake specialist, and not only adders. In southern Europe, hedgehogs hunt Montpellier snakes and sand vipers. Snakes whose venom is even stronger than that of the common adder, and they still win. I admit that for me, this was a discovery. All my life, I thought that the hedgehog was such a cozy creature that drinks milk and sadly looks at the moon, and it turned out to be a professional snake killer. In addition, with a built-in antidote that all pharmacists in the world dream of. Since we are talking about food, let us clarify everything to the end. The hedgehog's diet is a separate topic, and almost everything you know about it is most likely untrue. Myth 1. Milk. Never in any form give a hedgehog milk. Cow's milk is poison for a hedgehog. Hedgehogs do not have the enzyme lactase that breaks down milk sugar. Milk causes severe diarrhea, dehydration, and often death in them. Every time a kind plot owner pours milk into a bowl for a hedgehog, they unconsciously kill the animal with a slow and painful death. A hedgehog that drank milk can die within 2 or 3 days. And the saddest thing is that it does not happen immediately. The plot owner sees that the hedgehog drank and left. They are happy that they fed nature, and a day later the hedgehog lies somewhere in the grass with a destroyed intestine. If you want to help a hedgehog, pour it water, ordinary, clean water. That is the only thing it needs from you. You can also put out a bowl of grain-free cat food. The hedgehog will be grateful, but never milk. Myth 2. Apples and mushrooms. Hedgehogs do sometimes eat fallen fruit, but this is rare and forced nutrition. Their digestive system is not adapted to plant food. The basis of the diet is animal protein. 90% of what a hedgehog eats throughout its life is insects, mollusks, worms, and small vertebrates. If a hedgehog eats an apple, it is as if you started eating cardboard from hunger. You can, but without benefit. What does the hedgehog really eat? Here's an honest list based on data from British biologists who study the contents of hedgehog stomachs in a study from 2014. In first place are beetles and their larvae, especially cockchafers, dung beetles, and ground beetles. In second place are earthworms, up to 100 pieces per night. A hedgehog can eat earthworms with a total weight of 200 grams in one night. That is almost half of its own weight. Imagine a person who eats 30 kilograms of meat in one night. In third place are naked and shelled slugs. Moreover, the hedgehog eats slugs together with the shell. Then follow caterpillars, woodlice, spiders, small frogs, small lizards, mice, shrews, bird eggs if it finds a nest on the ground, and of course, snakes. There's an old English observation. If a hedgehog lives in the garden, there will be no slugs in it. It will simply eat them all. One hedgehog in a season clears a plot of up to 1 hectare of slugs almost completely. This is real biological garden protection, free and effective. In Great Britain, hedgehogs are now deliberately introduced into gardens to fight the slug plague. There's even a British hedgehog aid organization that breeds hedgehogs for this purpose and teaches gardeners to create hedgehog corridors, small openings in fences between plots so that hedgehogs can move freely. The movement has become so popular that in England, a special standard was even introduced. A hedgehog opening measuring 13 by 13 centimeters, exactly what an adult hedgehog needs to pass through. And now about the stomach. The hedgehog's stomach is built in such a way that it can digest chitin, the hard shell of insects. Have you ever tried to eat a beetle? It is hard as a nut and feels like a piece of plastic. The hedgehog chews it and digests it without problems. Moreover, special bacteria live in the hedgehog's stomach that neutralize toxins contained in some insects. For example, the hedgehog calmly eats blister beetles, which contain cantharidin, a poison deadly to most animals. Cantharidin does not affect it, just like snake venom, just like bee venom. This animal is a walking laboratory for neutralizing everything that in nature is considered poisonous, another amazing ability. Hedgehogs can eat bees, live, stinging bees. It approaches the hive, pushes apart the entrance with its snout, and begins to eat the bees one after another. The bees sting it in the snout, in the paws, in the nose. It continues to eat. Bee venom acts on the hedgehog very weakly, precisely thanks to that aranacin. Of course, there is not much pleasure in this. After such a dinner, the hedgehog's snout swells, and for several days it walks with swelling, but it does not die. But beekeepers do not like hedgehogs for this. A good hive can lose even 1,000 bees in one night, thanks to a hedgehog. This is a noticeable loss. Now, I will tell you about something that personally still seems almost fantastic to me, but it is pure truth. confirmed by hundreds of observations and recordings from cameras in hedgehog shelters. Hedgehogs have a ritual for which there is no clear explanation. It is called anointing, self-anointing, or in Polish terminology, self-smearing. It looks like this. The hedgehog finds some new, strongly smelling object. It can be a piece of toad skin, a rotten apple, a cigarette butt, a piece of soap, the skin of a venomous snake, any sharp smell. The hedgehog begins to bite it. Abundant foamy saliva is created in its mouth, and then the ritual begins. The hedgehog bends in an almost acrobatic pose and begins to smear this foam on its spines, on its back, on its sides, on its whole body. It can do this for from several minutes to an hour, until its entire spiny skin is covered with a layer of foam, saturated with the smell of the found object. Why it does this? No one knows exactly. There are several hypotheses. First, masking the smell so that predators do not detect the hedgehog. Second, protection against parasites such as fleas and ticks. Third, the most exotic, that the hedgehog in this way loads its spines with toxins, making them an even more dangerous weapon. Biologists have recorded cases when a hedgehog smeared itself with foam from crushed toad skin, and toad skin contains bufotoxin, a strong neurotoxic poison. After such a procedure, the hedgehog's spines became really venomous. A prick from them caused a local reaction even in humans. The British zoologist Nigel Reed described in 1990 a case when he found in the garden a hedgehog smeared with foam, smelling of machine oil. The hedgehog had apparently found an old rag near the garage and decided that it was suitable material for the ritual. The funniest case captured on camera: a hedgehog that smeared itself with chewing gum. It diligently chewed a piece of gum picked up from the ground until it obtained the right amount of aromatic foam and spread it over its whole body. After that, it looked like a small, spiny pink ball. But the strangest thing is that the hedgehog does this not only in the face of danger. It can smear itself simply out of curiosity, having encountered a new smell. Hedgehogs raised in captivity also do this, even with such absurd smells as shaving cream or perfume. The behavior is innate, not learned, and remains unexplained to the end. There is no unambiguous answer. There are several hypotheses. Perhaps this is a relic of some ancient ritual that was relevant millions of years ago, and now it remains only as a genetic program. The hedgehog smears itself because its ancestors smeared themselves, and that is all. Here's another interesting detail. Self-anointing begins in hedgehog babies at about 3 weeks of age, even before they really start leaving the nest. A small hedgehog baby, whose eyes have recently opened already independently, without any learning, finds a suitable object and begins to do what its ancestors did 15 million years ago. It is like an innate dance. No one teaches it. It is simply inside. And a question for you. Stop for a moment. Have you ever noticed in your pets, dogs, cats, similar strange behavior without an obvious reason? When they do something that does not fit into any logic, write in the comments. I like to collect such stories. Now about one of the most dramatic chapters in the hedgehog's life, about hibernation, because what the hedgehog does in winter in medical terms is clinical death followed by resurrection, and I am not exaggerating. When the temperature drops below 10 degrees, usually at the end of October or the beginning of November, the hedgehog falls into winter sleep. But the hedgehog's winter sleep is not ordinary sleep. It is something much more radical. Its body temperature drops from the normal 34 degrees to 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. 1 degree is almost zero. The heart, which in the active state beats from 180 to 250 times per minute, slows down to 2 or 10 beats per minute. Breathing, 1 breath per minute. Metabolism drops by 98%. If a human were in such a state, he would be considered dead. Any doctor applying a stethoscope would say, "The body is cold. The heart is not beating, no breathing." The end. But the hedgehog is not dead. It lives in a mode of minimal energy consumption, and in such a state spends 5 or 6 months. The burrow in which the hedgehog sleeps in winter is built by it in advance, usually in October. This is a serious engineering structure, depth up to 50 centimeters, inside a chamber the size of a shoebox, carefully lined with dry leaves, grass, and moss. The thermal insulation of this nest is so effective that in winter it maintains a temperature of about 5 degrees above zero inside, even when there is frost of -2 outside. The hedgehog does not just sleep in the ground, it sleeps in its own thermos that it built itself. How does it survive? Thanks to fat reserves. At the beginning of autumn, the hedgehog should weigh at least 600 grams, preferably about 1 kilogram. Otherwise, it will not survive the winter. Fat is deposited in 2 layers, ordinary white fat and special brown fat that all animals that hibernate have. Brown fat is a biological stove. When the hedgehog needs to wake up, the brown fat begins to intensively oxidize and warms the body from the inside. Within 2 hours, the hedgehog raises the temperature from 1 degree to 34. Imagine this scale. It is as if you turn from a corpse into a living person within 2 hours. Scientists from the University of Uppsala in Sweden in 2010 studied in detail the biochemistry of the hedgehog's awakening. It turned out that at this moment, a biochemical storm literally rages in the hedgehog's body. The level of free radicals is extremely high. In any other mammal, such processes would cause massive cell damage, but not in the hedgehog. It has special enzymes that neutralize oxidative stress. This is one of the reasons why hedgehogs, if they survive the first winter, then live relatively long. Their cellular protection is tuned for overloads. The hedgehog wakes up in winter rarely, once every 2 or 3 weeks. It wakes up, moves around a bit in the burrow, goes to the toilet, and falls asleep again. If the winter is warm and the hedgehog wakes up too often, it may simply not live until spring. Each awakening consumes a colossal amount of energy. According to calculations by Swedish biologists, one awakening burns as much fat as a week of active life in summer. That is why warm winters are more dangerous for hedgehogs than frosty ones. A paradox, but a fact. Along with climate change in Europe, warm winters have become the norm, and this is another reason why the hedgehog population is declining. They literally wake up too often and get exhausted. Mortality of hedgehogs during the first winter is about 80%. 80% of hedgehog babies born in summer do not live until spring. This is cruel but ordinary mathematics of nature. Those that survive usually live from 3 to 7 years. In the wild, a hedgehog rarely lives to old age. It dies under car wheels, from pesticides, from predators, from hunger. In captivity with good care, cases have been recorded when hedgehogs lived up to 16 years. 16 years is almost as long as a cat. But a wild hedgehog is not given such luxury. One more interesting piece of information about hibernation. Before winter sleep, hedgehogs eat especially voraciously. In September and October, the hedgehog gains up to 30% in weight. It literally swells from fat. If a mobile hedgehog weighed 600 grams, in October it can weigh 900. This is an evolutionary strategy, to accumulate as many reserves as possible before the first frosts. And it is precisely in this period, in October, that hedgehogs most often get under cars. They go out onto the roads in search of food, forgetting about caution. They are busy with one task: eat, eat, eat. Because of this, in autumn, the mortality of hedgehogs on roads increases threefold. And now about something you certainly did not expect. About the sexual life of hedgehogs, because this is a separate comedy and tragedy at the same time. The hedgehog mating season in Europe lasts from April to August. The male finds the female by smell and then begins what biologists call the hedgehog carousel. The male walks around the female in circles, sometimes for hours, literally hours. He circles, 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 and the female turns after him, showing him her spines. She snorts, sniffs, decides. This strange dance can last from 2 to 5 hours. Cases have been recorded when a male circled around one female for 7 hours in a row, without eating, without rest. He simply circled and hoped. Why so long? Because the female must be absolutely sure that she is ready. And also because the act of copulation in hedgehogs is an engineering challenge. Imagine this task. You need to connect 2 balls covered with sharp spines so that neither of them is harmed. Evolution solved this problem elegantly. The female presses the spines to the body as if relaxing them, making the back almost smooth. In males, the genital organ is located close to the belly, which allows avoiding contact with the female's spines. The whole act lasts shortly, about 10 minutes, and after it, the male immediately leaves. He simply leaves. No romance, no joint walks. He did his job and disappeared. Most likely, he will never see his partner again. Interestingly, a male can fertilize from 5 to 7 females during the season. At the same time, the female can also mate with several males. Genetic analysis of litters of hedgehog babies showed that in one litter of 5 hedgehog babies, there can be offspring from 3 different fathers. This is a phenomenon called multiple paternity in hedgehogs. The female is not picky. She wants maximum genetic diversity for her children. And this is evolutionarily correct. More fathers, greater chance that some of the hedgehog babies will be well adapted precisely to the current conditions. The hedgehog pregnancy lasts about 35 days, and here begins something most amazing. In hedgehogs, there is a phenomenon called delayed pregnancy or delayed implantation. If conditions are unfavorable, little food, cold, danger, the fertilized egg cell may not attach immediately to the wall of the uterus, as if waiting. It can wait for weeks until the situation improves. Then it attaches and development begins. Nature has equipped the hedgehog with built-in pregnancy planning. Frankly, this sounds almost unbelievable. I had to check it in several sources, but yes, it is a confirmed fact. Usually from 4 to 7 hedgehog babies are born. They are blind, naked, pink. Each weighs about 20 grams, the weight of 2 large coins. But here's what is amazing. They already have spines. They appear under the skin while still in the mother's womb. Only at the moment of birth they are soft and pressed to the body so as not to injure the mother. Within a few hours after birth, they begin to harden and rise. A newborn hedgehog baby already has the first 100 white, soft spines. After 2 or 3 weeks, the babies are already spiny miniature versions of adults, only even lighter. They acquire adult spine coloring at the age of 2 months. The mother feeds them with milk for about 6 weeks. Then the babies begin to leave the nest and learn to hunt. At the age of 3 months, they are already completely independent, and at the age of 8 months, they can become parents themselves. The hedgehog's life is short and intense. No kindergartens, no schools, straight into battle. The mother spends 5 or 6 weeks in the nest with the babies. During all this time, she almost does not leave them for long. The food she manages to get during short night forays turns into milk. During the feeding period, the female loses up to 40% of her weight. She literally exhausts herself for the offspring. When there is little food, the mother suffers first, not the babies. And one more fact that personally worries me. If the female hedgehog senses danger in the first days after birth, she can eat her babies whole. The reason is cruel but logical. If the nest has been detected by a predator, the babies are doomed. The female cannot take them away. There are too many of them, and they are too small. Therefore, she recycles them. Cannibalism as the last act of motherhood. Then she will leave, regain strength, and in the next season try again. Nature knows no sentiments. Nature knows only the statistics of survival. There is also another disturbing behavior. Sometimes a male hedgehog can kill foreign babies if it comes across a nest. It does this so that the female becomes ready for remating faster. The same strategy is known in lions. In hedgehogs, it happens less often but is documented. Nature is not arranged according to our ethical ideas. Nature is arranged according to the principle of effective gene transmission. Everything that interferes disappears. Everything that helps remains. Every living being on the planet is the result of millions of years of ruthless selection. The hedgehog is no exception in this regard. Now about something you certainly did not expect. About the connection of the hedgehog with us. This connection is much deeper than you think. Hedgehogs and humans have been neighbors in Europe and Asia, not for thousands, but for tens of thousands of years. In Paleolithic caves, hedgehog bones are found. Ancient people ate them. In ancient Egypt, the hedgehog was depicted on amulets. It was considered a symbol of rebirth because it returned to life in spring after winter death. Egyptians placed hedgehog figurines in tombs so that the deceased, like the hedgehog, would come to life in the afterlife. Such figurines, more than 3,000 years old, are kept in the British Museum. In ancient Rome, hedgehogs were kept in markets. Brushes for combing wool were made from their spiny skin, a whole branch of industry. In the 5th century of our era, they tried to ban this trade. There were so few hedgehogs left in the vicinity of Rome that Emperor Valentinian issued a special edict on the protection of hedgehogs on the territory of the empire. The first law on hedgehog protection in the history of mankind, 5th century of our era. In Britain until the 19th century, the hedgehog was a farm animal. It was deliberately bred to protect fields from insect pests. In some regions, a bounty was paid for a hedgehog's head. It was mistakenly believed that hedgehogs suck milk from cows. In reality, the hedgehog is physically unable to do this. Its snout is too small, and the cow will not let it approach. But the myth was tenacious. In over 2 centuries in England alone, according to official data, about 500,000 hedgehogs were killed, for which hunters received a bounty. 500,000 because of a myth. Hedgehogs were eaten, especially in Britain, where Roma had a national dish: hedgehog baked in clay. The method was simple. The hedgehog was coated whole with clay together with the spines and thrown into the fire. After an hour, the clay hardened, it was broken, and the spines fell off together with the clay. Clean meat remained. It supposedly tastes like pork. Frankly, I do not intend to check, but it is part of the history. In some villages of Eastern Europe, hedgehogs were still eaten in the 20th century, in hungry wartime years. Older people remember this. Today, of course, no one eats hedgehogs, but now they are massively killed in another way, by cars. According to data from British ecologists, only in Great Britain from 150,000 to 300,000 hedgehogs die under wheels every year. Every year in Little Britain. In continental Europe, this number, according to various estimates, exceeds 1 million. Every time you drive along a country road in the evening, remember that somewhere there in the grass sits a hedgehog that crawled onto the asphalt because it is good to rest on the sun-warmed surface after hunting. Hedgehogs cannot react to cars. Their instinct in the face of danger tells them to curl up into a ball and wait. For millions of years, this worked flawlessly against foxes, dogs, and wolves. Against a car, it does not work. A curled-up hedgehog simply becomes a neat, spiny ball under the wheel, and that is the end. Evolution did not prepare the hedgehog for a speed of 70 kilometers per hour. No animal is prepared. We humans have created conditions in which age-old defense mechanisms work against their owner. There are also pesticides and garden chemicals. Slugs that have eaten poison granules become poison for the hedgehog. The hedgehog eats them and dies from secondary poisoning. So if you have a garden and use metaldehyde, the most popular slug poison, know that you are killing hedgehogs unintentionally, but effectively. In the European Union since 2020, metaldehyde has been banned from free sale precisely for this reason. In Russia, it is still allowed. The third problem is the disappearance of habitats. Hedgehogs need hedges, overgrown field edges, bushes, compost heaps. Modern agriculture and modern gardens are mown lawns, concrete fences, bare ground. In such a landscape, there is nowhere for a hedgehog to live. It needs mess. It needs thickets. It needs nature not brought to perfect order. Every time you see a perfectly mown lawn from fence to fence, know that this is a place where a hedgehog cannot live. The fourth, less obvious problem is fires of dry grass. In spring, plot owners like to burn last year's grass, and in this grass, there are often hedgehogs that have just woken up after winter. They do not have time to escape and die alive in the flames. According to estimates by Russian ecologists, spring grass burning kills tens of thousands of hedgehogs in Russia every year, and no one sees this because the burned hedgehogs simply mix with the ash. Over the last 20 years, the population of the European hedgehog has decreased, according to estimates by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, by about 70%. 70%. This means that of every 10 hedgehogs living in Europe at the beginning of the 2000s, only 3 live today. In 2020, the hedgehog officially received the status of a species close to threatened. This status may change to endangered already in the coming years. Hedgehogs disappear quietly, without headlines in the news, without protests, without campaigns on social networks. Just quietly, one by one, because who will mention them? They are not as beautiful as tigers, not as intelligent as dolphins, not as exotic as pandas. They are just small, spiny, nocturnal creatures that no one has ever really seen properly. A quiet catastrophe in the grass behind your fence. And I have a question for you, the last one in this material. Tell me honestly, when was the last time you saw a live hedgehog in the wild? 5 years ago? 10? Never. Write in the comments. I think the answers will surprise you. I intended to finish here, but I cannot because there are still a few things I want to share. They did not fit into a separate block, but each of them in itself is a small discovery. First, hedgehogs have accents. Yes, you heard right. Biologist Amelie Siffert in 2016 conducted studies in Germany and found that hedgehogs from different regions of Europe make slightly different sounds. Snorting, squeaking, grunting. All hedgehogs have these, but the frequency characteristics differ depending on the population. Hedgehogs from Eastern Europe speak slightly differently than Western European ones. These are regional dialects. In a solitary, nocturnal animal, dialects. Why? Most likely it carries no meaning and only reflects the genetic isolation of populations. But the fact itself is fascinating. Second, hedgehogs swim. I myself was amazed when I found out. They have an apparently useless build for swimming. Short legs, heavy body, spines that absorb water. But hedgehogs swim excellently. They can swim across a small pond or stream. The spines do not get completely soaked because air remains between them. A hedgehog on water is a living float. They swim, of course, reluctantly and only when necessary, but if needed, they can. True, a hedgehog cannot get out of a high pool. Every year in Britain, thousands of cases are recorded when hedgehogs drown in ornamental garden pools. They fall in and cannot get out. That is why animal protectors appeal to place special ramps or pieces of bark in pools so that a fallen hedgehog can get out. Third, hedgehogs see ultraviolet, or rather sense it. Their eyes, despite all the nearsightedness, pick up the ultraviolet part of the spectrum. This means that in the dark, when everything seems black to us, for the hedgehog, the world glows a bit. Rodent urine, traces of other animals, droppings, all this in ultraviolet leaves a faint glow. The hedgehog sees this world of smells and traces like a thin, glowing map. It literally walks along a luminous path leading to prey. Fourth, hedgehogs and mushrooms. The hedgehog has such a resistant digestive system that it can calmly eat some species of mushrooms deadly to humans. For example, the death cap. It contains amatoxin, a toxin that destroys the liver in any mammal. In the hedgehog, it does not. In what exact way? Unknown. Another mystery of hedgehog biochemistry for which scientists do not yet have a full explanation. Fifth, hedgehogs and bats are distant relatives. Both species come from an ancient branch of insectivores. The evolutionary paths diverged about 70 million years ago. Some began to fly, others to dig. But when you look at the DNA, the kinship is visible. It is like cousins who chose completely different professions. Sixth, in Japan, African pygmy hedgehogs are kept as pets. This is not the European hedgehog, but another species specially bred for life with humans. In Tokyo, there are even cafes where people come to drink tea and pet hedgehogs. The hedgehog tourism industry. At the same time, the wild European hedgehog in its homeland is dying out. Ironic. Seventh, hedgehogs can be albinos. A white hedgehog with pink eyes is not a myth. Such individuals are born about once in 10,000. In nature, they do not survive. They are too visible to predators. But in captivity, white hedgehogs live excellently and become favorites of breeders. The price of a white hedgehog on the international pet market reaches thousands of dollars. Eighth, hedgehogs have their own fleas that live only on them. The hedgehog flea, Archaeopsilla arenacei, does not pass to humans or dogs or cats. Even if it gets on a human, it simply will not be able to live on him. Different biochemical composition of the skin. So if you pet a hedgehog, you do not have to be afraid of flea infection. They are specialized. They drink exclusively hedgehog blood. Ninth, hedgehogs snore in their sleep, loudly. British animal protectors who keep hedgehogs in rehabilitation centers complain that at night in the enclosures, there is such a concert that it is impossible to sleep. A small animal, and it snores almost like a human. There are many recordings of hedgehogs snoring on the internet. If you are curious, search for them. It is funny. 10th and last in this block. In Russian culture, the hedgehog has a special status. It appears in dozens of fairy tales, in stories and animated films. Hedgehog in the Fog by Yuri Norstein is one of the most famous animations in the history of world cinema. In 2003, at the International Animation Festival in Tokyo, it was recognized as the best animated film of all time. We know almost nothing about the real hedgehog, but the image of the hedgehog in our culture is something very deep, almost archetypal. Small, defenseless, walking through the fog towards something unknown. That is us ourselves, if you think about it. And in the end, I want to say, what is most important? Why all this? Why for almost 40 minutes did I tell you about some small, spiny animal that many of you may never have seen alive? Because the hedgehog is not just an animal, it is an indicator. It is a small, living sensor that shows how healthy the earth under your feet is. Where a hedgehog lives, there are insects. Where there are insects, there is clean soil. There's no excess chemistry, there's biodiversity. Where the hedgehog disappears, other, less noticeable species also disappear. The hedgehog is the first to signal that the ecosystem is falling apart. Its departure is not just the loss of one species, it is the loss of an entire chain that keeps nature in balance. The Roman poet Archilochus in the 6th century before our era wrote the famous sentence, "The fox knows many tricks, and the hedgehog knows one big thing." This thought was later picked up by the philosopher Isaiah Berlin and devoted an entire essay to it in the 20th century. The fox knows many things, the hedgehog knows one, but that one is true, fundamental. How to survive, how to defend yourself, how to live 15 million years almost without changing. The hedgehog knows what we do not know. It knows how to be part of the earth, not separately from it, but inside. We humans spent the last 100 years trying to stop being part of nature. We built cities, flooded fields with asphalt, fenced ourselves off with fences. It seems to us that we are now separate in our comfortable world, but the earth still lives according to its own laws. And the hedgehog that crosses your garden path on a summer night reminds us of this. It was here millions of years before you, and if luck is with it, it will be here millions of years after we are gone. And if not, it will depart quietly unnoticed, without farewell. Just as everything we did not value in time departs. I often think about a certain image. I imagine a summer night in 100 years, the same stars over a Moscow region village, the same grass, the same crickets, but grass without a hedgehog, empty. And someone from the people of the future reads in an old book. In Europe, there once lived a small animal with spines that could defeat snakes and sleep the whole winter without breathing. And this person thinks that this is a fairy tale, a myth, that such a creature could not really exist. I do not want this image to become reality, but it may. Therefore, if after this material you do one simple thing, leave in the corner of your garden a small, neglected area with branches, leaves, and thickets, that is already something. It will be a hedgehog home. Perhaps one hedgehog will settle in this home, survive the winter in your garden, and in spring give birth to babies. And one of those babies will live until it's winter, and the chain will continue. And that means nothing has ended. It is not just a creature from a fairy tale. It is an ancient warrior, perfect hunter, living paradox, walking pharmacy with spines on its back. It is a being that eats snakes and survives falls from the 3rd floor. It is a witness to the history of the planet that saw mammoths and now sees us. And if you ever hear in the evening on the plot or in the park a quiet snorting in the grass and see a small spiny shape darting in the twilight, stop for a moment. Do not touch. Do not rush to take a photo. Just watch and let it pass. It is not just an animal. It is a piece of the ancient world that, by some miracle, has survived to your feet. And the next time you hear someone call a hedgehog stupid, helpless, or funny, remember that this is a creature that is not afraid of the most venomous snakes of Europe. A creature that can die for the winter and resurrect in spring. A creature older than everything that man has ever created. The hedgehog is not funny. The hedgehog is the most underrated animal on this continent, perhaps on the entire planet. If this information turned out to be valuable for you, I will be very grateful for your support. Give a thumbs up, subscribe to the Wild Planet channel. In the next material, I will tell about a creature that may turn out to be even more amazing than the hedgehog. And believe me, it will definitely surprise you. See you, M.